Back when we think of parks, we picture safe places. Somewhere familiar, somewhere ordinary. Places meant for kids to play, people to walk, and families to relax. But sometimes, when the sun goes down and the crowds disappear, those same places feel different. Tonight's stories all take place in parks. Normal parks in normal neighborhoods. And every person telling these stories went in thinking nothing bad could happen. None of them were looking for trouble. They were just trying to enjoy a quiet night, clear their head, or spend time with friends. What they experienced instead left them confused, shaken, and with questions that still don't have answers. These aren't urban legends or ghost stories passed around online. These are real encounters, told by the people who lived through them. So if you're listening late at night, or if you've ever walked through a park after dark, you might want to pay close attention. Back before smartphones and social media swallowed up everything, kids actually spent time outside. We rode bikes, messed around, knocked on doors and ran, stayed out late doing things that would probably get us grounded now. Maybe it's just where I live, but you don't really see kids doing that anymore. When I was growing up though, from around age 9 all the way into my teens, I was almost never inside. I was always out with friends. Near my childhood home, there was a small neighborhood park just down the street that became our regular hangout spot. Especially at night. Our parents hated the noise, so the park was perfect. It was bordered by woods on 3 sides, with the street only on one end. Across the street, more woods. No nearby houses. No neighbors watching. No one calling the cops if we got too loud. This happened when I was about 13. That phase where bikes were our main mode of transportation. I'm pretty sure it was a Saturday. Earlier that day, we rode to a pizza place nearby, then ended up at my friend Tony's house, which was only a few blocks from mine. All 6 of us were hanging out in his backyard until his mom came out and told us to either quiet down, send people home, or go somewhere else. 3 of our friends decided to call it a night. Me, Tony, and our friend Rob didn't. Instead, we hopped on our bikes and rode to the park. It was maybe a 5-minute ride, but riding at night felt different. Quieter, lighter, like the world slowed down. When we got there, the park itself was pretty basic. A small baseball field, a short set of bleachers, a couple benches, and a decent-sized playground with a swing set and one of those tall, twisting metal slides. We always hung out on the playground because it was elevated and kind of hidden. We were sitting there talking when Tony suddenly went quiet and said, "Shoo, did you hear that?" We all stopped and listened. Nothing happened. Tony said he thought he heard a footstep, or maybe something hitting the playground that definitely wasn't us. We glanced around but didn't see anyone. A few minutes later though, we all heard it. A solid thud, like something heavy landing on the playground structure. That's when we started to feel uneasy. We stood up, walked around, even called out asking if someone was there. No answer. Eventually, we climbed back up and sat down again. A few minutes passed. Then we heard something far worse. A voice. A child's voice. It came from inside the spiral slide. I won't lie, we panicked. We hadn't heard anyone climb into the slide, and the earlier sounds didn't come from there. I walked closer and leaned toward the opening. I asked, "Is someone in there?" A small voice replied, "Hello." It sounded like a toddler. Definitely a child. My friends heard it too. We all stared at each other in fear. We'd been there for over half an hour. No one had arrived. No one had left. I sat at the top of the slide and asked if they needed help. No response. Assuming a kid might be stuck, I climbed in and slid down, expecting to run into them at any second. But when I reached the bottom, the slide was empty. I checked the entire area. The ground. The woods. Everywhere. Nothing. No one. Then, from inside the slide again, the same voice whispered, "Catch me." That was it. We ran for our bikes and pedaled faster than we ever had back to my house. We hid in my backyard, breathing hard, trying not to wake my dad. That's when there was a knock on the backyard gate. Not banging. Knocking. I asked who it was, assuming maybe it was family. A woman's voice replied, "Hello." Then she asked, "Were you boys just at the park?" We froze. I peeked through a small crack in the gate and saw a middle-aged woman standing there, already staring directly at me. She had a wide, unnatural smile, like she'd been waiting. I stepped back and said no. She asked again, "Are you sure?" Tony answered for me, saying no. She said, "Okay, thanks." But when I checked again, she was still there, smiling, watching. We went inside immediately. None of us slept much. My friend stayed over and left in the morning. We avoided that park for a long time. You could say it was just a lost kid and a worried mother. But it doesn't explain how she knew where we went or what we heard inside that slide. I never thought a simple walk through a park could become one of the scariest nights of my life. I live in a quiet suburban town where people feel safe being out at any hour. This happened on a Friday night in the summer of 2018. I just finished a late shift at work and decided to clear my head before going home. The park was only a few blocks away. I walked there often. That night, it felt too quiet. The streetlights were on, but the paths were dark beneath the trees. The smell of cut grass hung in the air. At first, everything seemed normal. Then I noticed a man sitting on a bench, hoodie up, staring straight ahead. As I passed, I realized he was watching me. When I heard footsteps behind me that stopped when I stopped and followed when I moved, I knew something was wrong. He followed me through the park, matched my pace. When I ran, he ran. When I reached the street, he stopped at the edge of the trees and watched. Weeks later, I still felt him watching. Even now, sometimes I swear I see him standing just beyond the tree line, waiting. Less than 24 hours ago, something happened that still doesn't make sense. 6 of us were hanging out at a park overlook late at night. We moved deeper into the park to avoid trouble. That's when a truck with its headlights off started circling us. Then more vehicles. Then men with flashlights. They hunted us through the woods. One of them was carrying something that looked like a blade. We escaped, but I've never been that afraid in my life. I don't know who they were. I don't know what they wanted, but I know I'll never go back. All 3 of these stories have one thing in common. There was no clear explanation, no final answer, no moment where everything suddenly made sense. Maybe there was a logical reason for what they heard. Maybe the people they saw had ordinary intentions. Or maybe there are moments when we cross paths with something we were never meant to understand. The unsettling part isn't what happened in these parks. It's the fact that the people involved were never able to confirm they were truly alone, or that they were ever as safe as they believed. If there's one lesson to take from these stories, it's this. Familiar places don't always stay familiar after dark. And sometimes, the quietest moments are the ones where you're being watched the closest. Thank you for listening. And remember, if you ever get that feeling you're not alone, trust it.